We are about 48 hours away from the Major League Baseball trade deadline, 6 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday. 21 teams within 5 games of a playoff spot entering Tuesday. Our David Samson has been a part of many deadline negotiations and trades over the years as a former team president. Take us inside those front offices right now. What does this last push over the last 2 days look like?
There's candy wrappers everywhere. There's pizza boxes. There's open containers of drinks, mostly non-alcoholic. There's amazing stress. There's cords in order to charge your devices. And what you're trying to figure out is, when is the time to blink? Blinking is when the front office looks at the owner and says, okay, we will go ahead and do this deal, and we're going to overpay to do it. Or we're going to get less back than what we really hoped we'd get, depending on, are we selling or are we buying? When you get into the final 48, which starts tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, that is when you start the process of deciding when the blink comes. Sometimes it doesn't come until 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, half hour before the deadline. And a little note, Chris, the deadlines used to be at midnight. And they changed it because East Coast presidents and GMs were like, this is ridiculous. Make it earlier because we're sitting there until the deadline. And so then it became 6 p.m. Little note there, Chris.
So how do you figure out whether or not you're a buyer, you're a seller, or you're a punter and you're just going to stand pat? And who are the teams right now you think that are facing those big decisions right now?
It's been written about by so many MLB insiders. Who's buying, who's selling, have the decisions been made? Yes, they have. Nobody is going into this 3 days of games and saying, oh, if we win the next 2, then we're in, we're buying. Oh my God, we just lost 1 out of 2 games on July 29th and 30th. Like the Blue Jays, man, we're done. We're sunk. We lost a couple of the Orioles. It's total horse hockey. You know what you're doing going into the final 2 weeks before the deadline. You know from your owner whether you can take on money or whether you have to shed money. Again, another misconception. It's not like at the deadline you call the owner and say, hey, can we take on $5 million? Of course not. You know in advance what you can do. Sometimes you go to the owner for a little more if you really need to save a prospect and give a little more money in a deal. But right now it's front offices who are trying to get the most they can if they're selling, or give away the least they can if they're buying.
Yeah, so the owner isn't necessarily in those meetings with you. You just got him on the phone? Because what's the give and take like with the ownership group and then the front office? And then there's the manager as well who's looking after the team.
So there's 2 people who have assignments in your deadline room. You have your GM, your president of baseball operations, your head of scouting, player personnel, etc. And you have like an intern. Their job is to keep the commissioner's office on the phone, because in order to get a deal approved, if there's money going back and forth, the commissioner's office has to approve it before 6 p.m. So you have someone on the phone with the commissioner's office. Then you have someone on the phone with the trainer, because you have to exchange medical and you got to be ready to do that. And then you've got someone on the phone, mostly me, with the owner. The owner's not in the room, but he's hearing everything that's going on, checking in every half hour, and we're checking in with him when we're close on deals. So 3 phones, 3 people in and out of rooms. It's total mayhem as you get close to the deadline. And the mayhem starts, I would say, tomorrow morning. The day before the deadline, morning of, is when it gets crazy.
So what's worse, I guess, for someone in the front office like yourself, a GM or a team president? Is it standing pat and just kind of rolling with what you got, or rolling the dice and taking a chance the rest of the season?
I loved buying. I mean, I'm thinking about a trade that happened in 2016. We traded for Fernando Rodney and traded away a minor league pitcher whose name just came across your lips a couple days ago. Chris Paddock was traded by the Marlins to get Rodney, and Rodney was an all-star that year for the Padres, and he came to the Marlins, couldn't get anyone out. But we tried, and it wasn't for lack of trying. Sometimes you buy and it doesn't work. Sometimes you buy and you get a ring. Sometimes you sell and you get back nothing, and you can't believe you wasted the opportunity. It's really hit or miss, and I know fan bases get frustrated, but I must tell you that all 30 fan bases feel the same way. There's plenty of misses, plenty of hits. It's very normal.
We have one of your trades queued up for you here on HQ. It wasn't at the deadline, but in the offseason of 2007, a trade where you sent away a couple of guys that got you a ring. How was ownership involved in this one?
What? What do you mean? Because we traded a future Hall of Famer because I couldn't get a stadium, and the owner said we're not going to be able to extend Miguel, so get him traded. And we had him traded to several places, and including to Anaheim. And then we ended up with the Tigers deal when they offered two of the top prospects in baseball in Maben and Miller. And then I got crucified for the rest of time, including today, almost 20 years later, when you're bringing it up and it's not even the deadline. Other than that, I don't remember it at all.
So to you, though, is it really a regret? Because it wasn't your choice. You can't really regret it, can you?
I regret a lot of things that aren't my choice. Yes, of course, I know we had to trade Miguel because it was the health of the franchise going forward. We had not gotten the ballpark that I'd promised the owner, and we had to get assets for Miguel that were younger than Miguel, and we knew he was a Hall of Famer. We had won a World Series with him just a few years earlier, and we loved our team. So regret. We had to do it. Any president of any team in our position would have made the same trade. But of course, I'm the one who did, so I'm the one who gets the heat for it, and I get it, and I'm fine with it. But anyone inside baseball understands why that trade was made. And by the way, Burke Badenhop was awesome.
One of the 6 players you got in return for Miguel Cabrera and Dontrelle Willis. David Samson with us here on HQ. A very busy time in Major League Baseball as we inch toward the deadline. 2 days from now, the Dodgers, overwhelming favorites to win the World Series. And then it's a couple of National League East teams, the Phillies and the Mets.
It is Tuesday, which means we are just 2 days away until the Major League Baseball trade deadline coming up on Thursday. I believe the deadline is around 6 p.m. according to our Matt Snyder. We're going to talk to him here in just a second. So taking a look at the wild card teams, things are very tight in the American League, as you can see. And we're going to talk about some of these teams and what they need to do at the trade deadline to maybe get out of that wild card position or at least cling on to it. Let's welcome in our Matt Snyder here. So we're going to start in the American Leagues. Matt, do we have Matt? We're good? Yeah, there he is. All right. What's up, Matt? We're going to start in the American League. We're going to start with the Yankees, 5.5 games behind the Blue Jays. They do hold that first wild card position in the American League. So far, they picked up Brian McMahon, started third base. So that's one move. Anything else?
Yeah, they definitely need to get some starting pitching. I mean, it was a couple weeks ago, Brian Cashman said, we're going to throw the house at this thing. You know, it's the Yankees. They're supposed to win all the time, but they were just in the World Series last year. Haven't won a World Series since 2009. So there's got to be some urgency here around this team. Aaron Judge ain't getting any younger. And, you know, you're still trying to take advantage of those prime Judge years. They did get Ryan McMahon to play third base. I think most of the concentration now is going to be on the pitching staff. They're going to look for relief pitching, but I think they need at least one starter and probably two. Clark Schmidt went down a couple weeks ago. Garrett Cole's out for the season. Will Warren seems to have hit a wall here. Max Fried has a blister. So it's just the problems on and on and on. Somebody like Mitch Keller, Merrill Kelly, maybe try to grab a wild card there in Sandy Alcantara, something like that. The Yankees need rotation help.
They need rotation help, and we're going to stay in the division, talk about the Red Sox. They're just one game behind the Yankees. Yes, they're third in the division, but that could change very quickly. Will Middlebrooks, a little while ago, said he thinks they also need a rotation guy, but you're going with a different position. Why?
Yeah, and they do. They do need a rotation guy, but I'm going to say first base for now. Remember, this goes back to Tristan Casas suffering a season-ending injury, Rafael Devers refusing to move to first base, and then the Red Sox trading Devers. They've got a lot of outfield depth. A lot of people are talking about maybe trading Jarren Duran to shore up other areas of their ball club, but I think they could just try to go out and grab a first baseman, and it looks like the Tampa Bay Rays might make Yandy Diaz available. He would be a perfect fit in that Red Sox lineup there. I know a lot of people look at, oh, they're in the same division. They won't want to deal with each other. Yeah, I don't think think the Rays really care about that. They just want to get back what they believe is the best return. The Rays, generally speaking, think that they can pull one over on a front office led by a former player like Craig Breslow. So I think that there would be a match here with Yandy Diaz at first base for the Red Sox.
One more team we're going to take a look at in the AL before we switch to the NL, the Mariners. If the season ended today, they would have a wild card spot. We saw just really how tight that race is. They picked up Josh Naylor, kind of the biggest move we've seen so far. What other moves do they need to do?
Yeah, I think they could use another bat in there. And you look at third base, there's a natural area for an upgrade with a former player who's familiar with Seattle, and that would be Eugenio Suarez. I don't know if both sides definitely want a reunion, but he'd be a really nice fit there at third base for the rest of the year. He adds a lot of power to that lineup where they already have Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena. Now they added Josh Naylor, who's more of an on-base and average guy actually than power. Eugenio Suarez is just straight up power. You could put him behind all those guys, bat him fifth or sixth in the lineup, and just let him hit bombs. I think that'd be a great move. If they want to go somewhere a little bit lesser and not necessarily go back to the well with Suarez, Willie Castro of the Twins could also work and could shore up third base. Let's take a look at the National League, where things stand right now when it comes to the wild card race. You have the Cubs, the Phillies, the Padres there, followed by the Reds. And then it's not quite as tight as the American League, but we got a lot of baseball left. So again, things could change. We're going to pick it up with the Cubs. They have that first wild card spot there. They're just one game back of the Brewers in the NL Central. It really does, Matt, kind of feel like it's between just these two teams right now, but it is very tight. What would the Cubs need at the deadline? Starting pitching. I mean, they need relief pitching. They're looking at an upgrade at third base over rookie Matt Shaw, and Eugenio Suarez is involved in that discussion. But the most important thing right now is starting pitching. Matthew Boyd last night didn't have much command. He was missing a lot of spots, and that one was rough to see because you do worry as the season goes along how Boyd's going to deal with such an increase in workload from last year. Cade Horton, the rookie, he's probably going to hit a wall at some point as well. Jamison Tyon's hurt right now. Justin Steele's out for the season. Yes, the Cubs need a lot of starting pitching, maybe not even just one guy, but if they're swimming in the deep end of the pool here, how about Mackenzie Gore? That would be an unbelievable addition for the Cubs. Mitch Keller would also be up there a little bit down the list. Edward Cabrera could also work. Let's go to the Phillies. They're trying to catch the Mets. They're only 1.5 games back. But last 10 games, if you look at these two teams, different directions. The Phillies are only 5-5. The Mets are 7-3. What can the Phillies do to change that? Well, they're going to need some bullpen help eventually. They did sign David Robertson, and I know as we get closer to the playoffs, even owner John Middleton talked about how they have so many good starting pitchers, they could kick one of those guys to the bullpen. Still think they need bullpen help, but I wanted to focus on the outfield here. All three of their outfielders have been subpar this year, and they've got lefty hitters out there in Brandon Marsh, Max Kepler, so they could use a right-handed hitter that could play center field. And I'm going to look at Luis Robert of the White Sox to be a change of scenery guy. I think if he went from the worst team in baseball history last year, one of the worst teams in baseball this season, back to a contender. We saw 2 years ago how good he can be. Top 10 finish in MVP voting for the White Sox, approached 40 home runs. He's a power speed guy. When he's on, he's an unbelievable talent. I think he could be reinvigorated if he was traded to somebody like the Phillies. So I absolutely love Luis Robert to the Phillies as kind of my fictional move right now. You never know. It could be real. Doesn't have to stay fictional. Final team we're going to talk about, the Padres here, and they really are tight in the race because it's probably going to be pretty hard to catch to the Dodgers. Not saying it can't be done, but it's going to be difficult. They have the final wild card spot right now. What are some of the key positions that they need? They need bats. The lineup is just not that deep. They're far too reliant on the top of the order, especially Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado. Of course, Luis Ariz between them with his high batting average, although he did hit a home run last night. But they need a little more lineup depth, and DH would be the spot to upgrade, and that's why so many people have been matching them up with Marcell Ozuna of the Braves. That would be a very, very good match right there in terms of Padres need a big bat who can serve as a DH, hit for power. That's exactly what Marcell Ozuna has done the past several years for the Braves. He's a free agent after the year. The Braves are in position to sell because they are way, way out of the race at this time. It does make a lot of sense. All right, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Try to get some rest between now and Thursday because it seems like teams are going to wait until the very end. We've not seen a lot of moves. As mentioned, Josh Naylor kind of being the biggest one thus far. Odds to win the World Series, Dodgers right now at the very top. Phillies, look, they've got some room to make up, but they're in a good spot when it comes to betting odds. If you'd like to make a little money on the Phillies, plus money
at plus 850, followed by the Mets, Tigers, Yankees, and then the Astros.